A 9-year-old girl once tried to hire my entire motorcycle club for $7. She slid the money into my hand and whispered, "You scare everyone else. Can you scare him for me?" Before I tell you how that night ended, do me a favor. If you're listening to this right now, drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Hit like if you believe the strong should protect the weak. Share this story with someone who needs it. And don't forget to subscribe so you can ride with us on the next one. All right? Let me tell you about Lily and the $7 that changed a lot more than she realized. Most people only see the leather first. They see the black sleeveless vest with HellsAngels stretched across the back, the phoenix patch, the full-sleeve tattoos, the skull inked into my bicep, the beard, the scars. And they decide what I am before I say a word. They decide I'm the villain. That's fine. Sometimes the world needs a monster in the room, as long as it's pointed at the right people. It was a gray afternoon on Highway 17, sky the color of an old t-shirt. The wind pushed dust across the cracked parking lot and made the rusty gas price sign squeal on its hinges. The diner was half full, truckers arguing about football, some locals nursing coffee like they were stalling real life. And in the far corner, at the same sticky booth she always sat in, was Lily. Tiny thing. Pink hoodie 2 sizes too big, hair pulled back in a loose ponytail that was halfway undone, a workbook open in front of her, and a pencil moving slow, like every answer was heavier than it should have been. Plate of fries going cold next to her. Her mom weaved between tables with a coffee pot and that rushed, tired energy you only see in people who can't afford to sit down. We'd seen Lily a lot, the homework kid, always quiet, too quiet. HellsAngel rolled in like we always did. 6 black Harleys in a line, engines grumbling as they cooled. I was leaning against my bike, arms crossed, listening to the highway hum and the click of hot metal. That's when I felt it. You spend enough years in bars, back alleys, and bad parking lots, you develop a 6th sense for eyes on your back. I looked up. She wasn't in her booth anymore. Lily was standing in the diner doorway, framed by a flickering neon open sign. One hand clutched a worn-out stuffed bunny by the ear, fur rubbed thin, one button eye hanging by a thread. The other hand was balled into a fist so tight her knuckles were white. 9 years old, maybe. But the look in her eyes wasn't 9. It was older. The kind of old you only get when life shows up too early and too rough. Our eyes met across the parking lot. Most kids see me and duck behind their mom. Lily's gaze shook, but it held. Like she'd already made a decision and there was no running it back. She stepped out onto the asphalt. Her sneakers scraped gravel. The wind tugged at her hoodie and inflated it around her skinny frame. She hesitated for half a heartbeat, then took another step, and another, as if whatever was behind her in that diner was scarier than a row of bikers outside. I straightened slowly so I wouldn't tower over her too much, hands dropping to my handlebars. Through the diner window, I caught a glimpse of her mom, back turned, grabbing plates, chatting with a customer, completely unaware her daughter had just walked out into a storm of leather and ink. The guys went quiet as they noticed her crossing the lot. Conversations trailed off. Boots scraped. Engines ticked. She stopped in front of me. Up close, I could see the dark circles under her eyes and a little scar near her eyebrow. The bunny dangled from her hand, its one eye bouncing with every small tremor in her fingers. For a moment, we just existed there. The only sounds were a semi rolling by out on 17, the low buzz of the diner's vent fan, and the soft tick of cooling engines. Hey, kiddo, I said, lowering my voice. You okay? You lost? She shook her head, quick, sharp. Then she did something I absolutely didn't expect. She opened her fist. In her palm lay a crumpled $5 bill and two equally crumpled singles, $7, soft from too many times in and out of the same pocket. On top of the small stack was a folded scrap of paper, creased so many times the edges had started to tear. She held her hand out toward me, arm shaking just enough for the bills to tremble in the breeze. No words. Just those big, serious eyes locked on mine, like this was some kind of test and I was the one being graded. Behind me, I heard someone from the club shift position, chair legs scrape on concrete. Then silence. The world turned the volume down for us. I pushed off the bike and crouched a little so we were closer to eye level. What's this? I asked, holding my hand out, but not taking the money yet. You selling cookies or something? Her throat moved as she swallowed. When she finally spoke, her voice sounded like it had been worn down by crying into pillows. This is all my money, she said. It's $7. I counted. Her fingers were ice cold when she placed the money and the folded note into my palm. Not the kind of cold the weather gives you, the kind that seeps in when you've been scared for too long. I closed my hand around it, feeling how small that bundle was, how light. On the outside of the folded paper, in shaky pencil, it said, "Please don't tell my mom." My chest tightened. That one line told me almost everything I needed to know. There was a secret. There was shame. And there was danger. I unfolded the note carefully. The paper was soft from being opened and refolded 100 times in some small pair of hands. The handwriting was cramped, uneven, like the writer had been rushing and trying not to cry. This is all my money. Can you please make Darren go away? He says he's taking me tonight. I'm really scared. I read it twice. Darren. Didn't know the man, but I knew his type. There are too many Darrens in this world. Small-time predators who think fear is something they're owed. Men who like to pick targets who are young, tired, broke, or trapped. I looked back at Lily. Her eyes were shiny with tears she wouldn't let fall. She squeezed the bunny so hard its seams pulled. She took a breath that seemed to fill her whole narrow chest, then whispered, "You scare everyone else. Can you scare him for me?" Right there. That sentence. That was the moment everything shifted. Up until then, we were just some bikers grabbing dinner on the way through town. After that, we were hired. $7 and a note. That's all it took. Before that day, Lily was just background to us, the quiet kid with the cold fries and the too big hoodie. But you can learn a lot from the background if you actually pay attention. I'd seen the way she flinched when the bell over the diner door slammed too hard, the way she sat where she could see both the entrance and the window, how her shoulders relaxed a little whenever her mom brushed her arm as she passed, and tensed right back up the second she walked away again. Kids don't move like that by accident. I folded the note up slowly, buying myself a second to keep my temper from boiling over right there in the parking lot. There's no point in scaring the kid who came to you for help. "Lily," I said, trying the name I'd heard the waitress use. Her eyes flicked up fast when she heard it. "Who's Darren?" She glanced back at the diner, checking for shadows in the window like just saying his name might pull him out. "He used to live with us," she whispered. "With Mom, before he went to jail." I didn't interrupt. Sometimes kids need space to lay the dominoes out, one by one. "He comes back now," she said, "when Mom works at night. He bangs on the door. He shouts a lot. He says Mom owes him money. Says I owe him too. 'Cause he bought me shoes once. Her fingers tightened on the bunny until the fabric bunched. He said tonight he's done asking, she finished. If Mom doesn't give him the money, he's gonna take something more valuable. She swallowed hard. He looked at me when he said it, she added. There it was, not just fear, a deadline. Behind me, boots crunched on gravel. Everything good out here, Bear? Rook's voice, one of my brothers, tall, shaved head, eyes like radar. I handed him the note without a word. He read it, jaw tensing, then lifted his gaze to Lily. I watched the shift in his face. Rook has a daughter he doesn't see as much as he wants. He knows what it looks like when a kid's carrying something too heavy. That him? He asked Lily quietly. The guy the waitress was worried about? She nodded, barely. Turned out, Darren's name had already floated through that diner in late-night whispers. Broken glass one morning, shouting through the front door. A bruise on Mom's arm brushed off as I'm clumsy. People notice. They just don't always act. We do. When did he say? I asked. Tonight, she repeated. When it's dark. How many hours was tonight? 2? 6? Didn't matter. It was a countdown either way. I slipped the note into the inside pocket of my vest, right over my heart. The $7 went into my wallet, not because we needed it, but because it meant something. Payment, a contract, her trust. Why'd you come to me, Lily? I asked. Out of everyone? She hesitated, then looked at my tattoos, my vest, the line of bikes, the other men standing quietly behind me. You scare everybody else, she said simply. The truckers, the boys at school, even the sheriff guy gets mad when you park here. I thought, if you can scare them, maybe you can scare him. Simple math. A child doing the kind of calculus they should never have to do. I nodded once. Okay, I said. Here's the deal. You go back inside. You act like nothing's wrong. You eat your fries, do your homework, and don't worry about the door tonight. That's our job now. Her brow furrowed. You're not going to tell my mom? She asked. Not yet, I said. Not until we've got something useful to tell her. You asked me not to, remember? She searched my face like she was looking for cracks in my promise. Whatever she saw there must have been enough. She hugged the bunny tighter, gave one small nod, and turned back toward the diner. Her steps weren't steady, but they were braver. As soon as the door swung shut behind her, the air changed. Rook let out a slow breath. So, he said, we babysitting? Or are we handling a problem? We're handling a problem, I answered, and the clock's already ticking. Inside, the guys took one look at my face and slid into church mode without me saying much. We crowded around a back booth under a buzzing light. From the outside, it probably looked like a gang planning trouble. In a way, it was. I put the note on the table. No jokes, no half smiles. Scarred hands and tattooed arms folded as they leaned in to read. Ghost, our quiet one, tapped the paper with one finger. Jailbird X? He asked. Fresh out, I said. No contact order on file. Sheriff half mentioned it last month. Tank grunted. Years ago, he'd watched his sister go through hell with a man not so different from Darren. He still carries that failure like a brand. Hurt a woman, you're trash, Tank said. Hurt a kid, you're something worse. We all nodded. What's the play? Someone asked. We start smart, I said. We find him. We let him know we exist before he ever sees that front porch, and we make sure when we stand in front of her door tonight, the law is standing behind us. First stop, his place. The trailer park sat on the edge of town like a collection of bad decisions and overdue payments. We rolled in slow, gravel rattling under our tires, dogs barking behind chain-link fences. A couple of guys on a porch froze mid-laugh when they saw us, their grins evaporating. "There," Ghost murmured over the helmet comm. A dented blue sedan sat crooked in front of a rusted trailer. Plate matched the one the waitress had scribbled for us the week before when she'd vented about that jerk who won't stay away from Lily's mom. The trailer leaned like it was tired of supporting his weight. Window shades drawn in midday. One of them bent where a fist had punched through at some point. We didn't need to knock. We just idled past in a slow, loud procession. 6 black Harleys, 6 black vests, 6 pairs of eyes taking inventory. A curtain twitched and snapped shut. "Good," I said. "Let him know we're real." Next stop, the sheriff. Now, the sheriff and we're not exactly drinking buddies. He doesn't like my ink, doesn't like our patch, doesn't like that sometimes we show up places before his deputies do, but he's not stupid, and he's not blind. I walked into the station alone. The room smelled like stale coffee and printer toner. A deputy at the front desk stiffened when he saw me, hand hovering near his belt. If I wanted trouble, I told him, I wouldn't come through the front door. A minute later, the sheriff stepped out. Mustache, receding hairline, permanent line between his brows that had my name on it. "Bear," he said. "What now?" I slid a photocopy of Lily's note across the counter, kept the original on me. He read it. His face changed. "You got a last name for this Darren?" he asked. "Cole," I said. "Paroli, right?" He nodded slowly. "Parole," he confirmed. "And yeah, there's a no-contact order. Mother got scared, dropped the charges before they stuck, but the paper trail's still there." "Then we've got leverage, I said. "He told a 9-year-old he's taking her tonight. That's more than a bad vibe." The sheriff sighed. "I can't lock him up on a note written by a kid and your gut feeling," he said. "But I can have a cruiser sit on her street, log his presence if he shows." "You and I both know a cruiser half a block away isn't much use if he's already at her door," I replied. "We're going to be there too. You get your logs, your parole violation. We'll make sure he doesn't get close enough to say hello." We stared at each other for a long second. 2 different versions of justice, sizing each other up. "I don't want broken bones," he said. "Then tell him to keep his hands to himself," I answered. His mouth twitched, almost, but not quite, a smile. "Fine," he said. "You stand on the porch. We'll stand on the street. Maybe between us, the paperwork and the patches will get the job done." By the time we rolled into Lily's neighborhood, the sun was sliding down, turning the sky the color of old coins. It was the kind of street where kids' bikes lay on their sides in patchy yards, and someone always had a TV too loud behind a thin wall. We didn't line up like a parade. 2 bikes out front, a couple spaced down the block, one across from the house. To a nervous neighbor, we probably looked like trouble. Good. Lily's house was small, paint peeling in places, but the front step swept clean. Thin curtains were drawn almost shut. Through the gap, I saw her silhouette move, setting plates, carrying something to the table. Her mom's shape passed behind her, pacing that endless loop between kitchen and living room. They had no idea we were there for them. That was fine. Not every shield needs to be obvious. Time dragged. Streetlights blinked on. Crickets started up their nightly chorus. Somewhere, a dog barked at a squirrel like it was a war crime. We waited. "He said tonight," Rook muttered from his spot across the street. "Think a clown like him shows early or late?" "Doesn't matter," I said through the calm. "We're here either way." Then we heard it. That cough sputter of a bad muffler. The squeal of cheap tires hitting the corner too fast. Headlights swung across mailboxes like a searchlight as the dented blue sedan crawled onto the street. He killed the lights before he killed the engine, like darkness was a disguise. It wasn't. He stepped out. Late 30s, cheap jacket, 3 days of stubble, jaw clenched tight. You could smell cigarettes and cheap whiskey on him from 10 feet away. His eyes swept the street. They landed on the bikes first. The vests, the patches. Then on me, standing under a streetlight, arms loose at my sides, skull tattoo catching the glow. For a heartbeat, his stride hitched. Then he put the mask on. Smirk, swagger, chin up. "Evening, gentlemen," he called, heading toward Lily's house like he had a right to. "Nice night for a family visit." He tried to walk past me on the sidewalk. I stepped into his path. Not fast, not aggressive, just there. "Darren Cole?" I asked. He let out a short, brittle laugh. "Who's asking?" he said. "I'm the man standing between you and that front door," I replied. Behind me I could feel the Redeemers adjusting slightly, just enough to let their vests catch the streetlight. Down the block, a cruiser pulled up and parked, engine idling, silhouette of the sheriff behind the wheel. Darren's gaze flicked that way, then back to me. "You got no business here, man," he said. "That's my house, my family." The word family tasted wrong coming out of his mouth. "Family doesn't threaten to take a kid when it doesn't get paid," I said. "Family doesn't pound on doors so hard a 9-year-old learns all the different ways wood can shake." His jaw ticked. "She been talking?" he snapped. "She's been writing," I countered. I tapped my chest where the note was. "Every word the sheriff needs to hear is right here." The tough guy's smirk thinned. I watched the calculations start behind his eyes. Ego, fear, entitlement, the whole ugly mix. "You think a bunch of bikers scare me?" he said. "I did time, old man." I stepped in a fraction closer, enough that he had to tilt his head back a little to keep eye contact. "I don't need you to be scared of me," I said quietly. "I need you to be scared of what happens next if you take one more step toward that house." I nodded toward the cruiser. "You're on parole," I reminded him. "There's a no-contact order with the woman who lives here. You knock on that door, you so much as yell her name in the front yard, that's a violation. That car down there? They're not just sightseeing." I let the silence stretch, then added, "And here's the thing, Darren. We don't have to lay a hand on you. All we have to do is stand here and watch what you do. You give us any excuse, we hand you to them with a bow on top." He scoffed, but his voice didn't have much weight behind it. "She owes me," he said. "Money, respect. After everything I did, she owes you nothing," I cut in. "You lost that when the court stamped that order. You lost that when a kid was more afraid of your car than the dark." Behind him, Tank shifted, folding his huge arms. Ghost leaned against a mailbox. The skulls and phoenixes on our backs might as well have been warning signs. "Here's your choice," I said. "You turn around. You get in that car. You leave this street and this town behind you. You don't call, don't text, don't accidentally bump into them at the store. You become a ghost." I paused. "Or you try to go through me. Through us. Through the sheriff. through parole, through every set of eyes on this block. He stared at me, breathing hard. The porch light clicked on behind me. In the window, a shadow moved. A small head, a bunny ear. Lily was watching. "You don't get to scare me off my own family," he muttered one last time. "Too late," I said. "She already hired us." Something in him broke then. Not in a noble way, just in a tired, mean little collapse. He spat on the pavement, tossed a curse in our direction, then turned and stomped back to his car. The door slammed. The engine coughed. For a second, I thought he might gun it and try to scare us with a fake rush. He didn't. He peeled away, tires squealing, taillights shrinking and shrinking until they were just two red specks in the dark. We watched until even those were gone. The cruiser rolled a little closer. The sheriff leaned out the window. "He gone?" he called. "For tonight," I said. "You'll probably see his name on another report soon enough if he's as dumb as he looks. But he won't come back here, not knowing who's standing on this street now." When I turned toward the house, the front curtain fluttered. A small face and the outline of a bunny ducked back out of sight. I lifted a hand to my chest and tapped the pocket with the note, then gave a small nod toward the window. We kept our end. Here's the thing, though. Making a man like that leave for one night is one kind of job. Making sure he doesn't come back is another. We weren't done. I walked up the short path to the front door and knocked. Just once. Firm, not angry. There was some clinking inside. The scrape of a chair. Quick footsteps. The door opened a crack. Chain still on. Lily's mom peered out. Hair down now, eyes tired. A dish towel knotted in her hands. Her gaze bounced from my vest to the bikes to the cruiser down the block. I could practically hear every alarm bell in her head going off. "We're closed," she blurted, muscle memory from the diner kicking in. "I'm not here to order food, ma'am," I said, keeping my voice low. "I'm here because a man named Darren just tried to come by." All the color left her face. "He's not supposed to be here," she whispered. I filed. They said, "You did the right thing," I interrupted gently. "Paperwork's in your favor, but paper doesn't stand on the porch. Tonight, we did." I told her what had happened in the street. The sheriff, the parole, how close he'd gotten, and how far we made him go back. Her eyes shone, not just with fear, but with a kind of exhausted shame, like she was embarrassed it had come to this at all. "Why?" she asked finally. "Why would you get involved?" Behind her, Lily hovered in the hallway. Bunny clutched, listening. "Because your kid asked us to," I said simply. "And because nobody should have to deal with a man like that alone." We didn't stay long, just long enough to outline the next steps. Sheriff filing a violation report, a legal contact we knew from a charity ride who could help strengthen her no-contact order, a cousin of one of the guys who could come by in the morning and change every lock on the place for free. "This isn't charity," I told her when she tried to refuse. "Call it professional courtesy, from one family protecting another." Before I left, I handed her a small brown bag we'd grabbed at the all-night mart on the way over. Bread, milk, eggs, basics. "You've got enough to worry about," I said. "You shouldn't have to count slices of bread on top of it." She covered her mouth, inhaled sharply. No dramatic breakdown. Just that tiny, honest crack in the armor of someone who's been holding on too long. When we stepped back out on the porch, Lily followed. Bare feet on old wood, hoodie sleeves pulled over her hands, Bunny under one arm. She walked up to me, hesitated, then looked up. Did you use it?" she asked. Use what? I said, though I already knew. My $7. I let the smallest smile pull at one corner of my mouth. The job was done. I could afford it. Yeah, I said. We did. Bought you something. I pulled out my wallet, took out the same $7 she'd given me, creased, familiar, and slid them into her hand. Then I added a crisp 20 on top. We bought you time, I said. Turns out we were running a special, $27 worth. She stared at the money, then at me. But that's more than I paid you, she whispered. That's how this works sometimes, I replied. You gave us your trust. We pay interest. Her fingers closed slowly around the bills. For the first time since I'd met her, I saw something other than fear in her eyes. Hope, fragile, but real. We walked back to the bikes. Ghost swung his leg over his Harley. Think she'll be okay? He asked quietly. I looked back at the house. Lily stood in the doorway, pink hoodie framed by warm light, bunny under one arm, other hand still wrapped around the money. Her mom was behind her, one hand on her shoulder, eyes on the street. She's got a shot now, I said. Tonight, that's enough. Engines roared to life. The sound rolled down the block like distant thunder. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains, judging, whispering, clutching their assumptions a little tighter. Let them. That night wasn't about them. It was about a kid who looked at the scariest people she knew and saw a way out. People ask me sometimes why we wear what we wear. The leather, the ink, the patch. They think it's about playing the monster. Truth is, the world has plenty of monsters already. What it doesn't have enough of are people willing to stand between those monsters and the ones who can't fight back. A few days after that night, I took Lily's note, the original with the shaky handwriting and the creases, and framed it. Hung it on a nail in a quiet corner of the clubhouse, right above the bar. $7, folded behind the paper. Every now and then someone new walks through our door looking like the world has chewed them up. They'll glance at the tattoos, the vests, the skulls, and I can see the fear wrestling with the need for help. Sometimes they ask, "How much do you charge?" I just nod toward that frame. That, I say, is the going rate. $7 and enough courage to walk in and ask. You don't need a Harley or a patch to be that for someone, by the way. Maybe in your world, you're not the biker. Maybe you're the coworker who speaks up, the neighbor who calls, the friend who shows up at midnight with a spare couch and a listening ear. Being scary isn't about how you look. It's about what you're willing to stand in front of. Hell's Angel. We don't ride around looking for trouble. We ride around looking for the people trouble has already found. And on one gray afternoon at a roadside diner, a 9-year-old girl hired us with $7 crumpled and a note that said, "Please don't tell my mom." She asked us to scare the monster that scared her. And that's exactly what we did. If this story hit you even a little, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded they're not alone. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Hit like if you believe real strength is for protecting the vulnerable. And subscribe if you want to ride with us on the next story. Until then, ride safe.